I do remember the first time. It was
How
at a
was
driving school, and
okay.
I know you're about to say, how was that? It
Yeah.
was fun. It was really fun. But
Hello, everyone. Today we have a very special guest joining us from Seattle, Washington. We have professional race car driver Matt Butson. So, Matt, thanks for joining us today. And how's everything going?
thanks for having me, guys. Everything's going well here. I'm ready to get it started with you guys today.
We're looking forward to it too. So, to kind of get us started, can you kind of tell us about life in Seattle? You grew up there, right?
Yeah. So I grew up in Seattle my whole life, and then actually for college decided I want to go out and venture east towards PA. Went to school at Robert Morris University. I got my bachelor's there, business administration, and I ended up going to graduate school in Colorado at University of Denver, and now I've made my way back to Seattle. So I'm working here now, and for the time being, this is where I'm staying.
Gotcha. Did you actually get to spend much time in Denver, or were you doing like online classes, or what was up with that?
I had my master's real estate and construction management program started last August. I moved there. I actually lived in downtown Denver, which was a good time. I got 3/4 of the way through the program, maybe a little more, and then I took a job back home here. So I had to finish my last 2 classes online virtually now.
And you're finishing up soon, right?
Very soon. November is the end date, and then I should be done for school for a while.
There you go. It's crazy, man, because I stayed that 5th year, as you know, and I'm done now.
Oh, I know. Never going back, dude.
It's crazy. So yeah, that kind of answers the first 2 questions. Can you kind of tell us about hobbies you have outside of racing?
Dude, Logan, you're asking a question that's hard to answer. Outside of racing, I enjoy going on the lake, bit of a lake rat, like surfing, water skiing. I like tinkering, motorcycles. I got those. Anything with a motor, 2 wheels plus, even no wheels on the water. That's usually my main go-to hobbies. And I enjoy a little golf here and there, as you would know. But I'm definitely not a scratch golf.
That's what I was going to ask. Where does the golf come into play? Do you play much at all anymore?
Since college, been backing it off a little. I don't have the beauty of Moon Township being right here to go play that course. So I've played once and I kept it under 100, but we'll leave it at that.
There you go. Fair enough.
Transitioning to motors on the land, kind of getting into racing for dummies. What are kind of like the basics of registering and qualifying for events?
Oh, okay. You could probably break that down from a regional club level to a national club level to professional racing. I would say from a regional level, it starts by getting yourself into a driving school, getting your novice, and then trying to get your SCCA full competition license. And once you have your SCCA full comp license, you are now able to race at the regional or national level across the United States. That's kind of what that looks like. It's fairly easy to get into, and from there, there's a very large variety of drivers, all from amateur beginners all the way up to guys who just never made it to pro, whether it be for personal reasons, budgeting, purely choice. So really good drivers even at the club level. And then when you get to the pro level, there's usually a certain level of qualifications in regards to licensing. And in order to get your license, what races you've participated in. And then obviously there's a bit of a physical checklist, paperwork and whatnot. And then the pro route from there more looks like a national level, depending on the series, but you're going to be traveling, it could be West Coast from Monterey, California to Daytona in Florida. So that's what that kind of sums it up in an easy way to understand it.
Can you go kind of like more in depth with the different types of classes / series that you like compete in?
I did SCCA at the club level when I was starting for the first couple of years. Then after that, I joined the Trans Am series. They're an American racing series nationwide. The cars have historically been one class. It was called like a Trans Am car, tube chassis, and then the bodies were carbon fiber bodies coming in mostly Camaro, Mustang, Corvette. Now, the current Trans Am cars make 900 horsepower, sequential 5-speed transmissions, 200 plus mile an hour car, you name it. They are state-of-the-art, extremely fast cars. Great series, highly competitive. I'm also racing in the Formula Race Promotions, who holds the Formula Atlantic Championship each year. And those cars, if you know a little bit of history on Formula Atlantics, they were originally a car in a series made to be the feeder to IndyCar. And since then, Formula Race Promotions has taken that and brought it under their own series and revised it to give it a 6-weekend, 12-race schedule throughout the year. Comprises a lot of really good drivers, and it's really good racing.
By the way, we called this section Racing for Dummies because we are actually learning right now.
Gotcha.
Like many other people that are going to be watching this, I'm sure. So this is all really cool to learn. Relating to the series that you drive in, can you kind of explain what the difference is between your Trans Am Mustang and your Formula Atlantic car? Like, what's the kind of main differences between the two?
Yeah, so we'll start with the Trans Am car, probably most relatable. Even though it looks like a Mustang from the outside, actually, all those body panels come off with just a couple clips, and then you'll be left with a tube frame chassis. Unlike the cars on the street now where you get in the car, there's seats, interiors, computers, whatever it may be. These are purely, take this apart, it is now a tube roll cage. You can see everything from the motor to the transmission to the rear end. Everything comes apart, basically down to the frame. Probably a really good factor that they stand out from other cars in racing is just their pure power. They have humongous power, 900 horsepower. They're 5-speed sequential transmissions, really durable. All the components on the car are made just to handle all that power. I mean, the cars have to be able to handle 200 miles an hour, but also have to brake from 200 miles an hour to 30 miles an hour for the turns, right? So it's a really well-balanced car. It's a handful. There's no driver aid, so that means there's no ABS, there's no traction control. So it's purely up to the driver to get the car to do whatever you want it to do, right? It needs to perform a certain way. It's between you and your crew to dial in the car. And feel free to ask more questions on that if you want. I know it's a lot. But the Formula Atlantic car, a little bit different. That car it's not a tube chassis car, right? It's a carbon fiber tub made by Swift. It's all carbon fiber. It has a 4-cylinder Mazda powered, roughly 300 horsepower engine. And the car pushes about 1,600 pounds of downforce. It is a ground effect car. So which means is, it relies on that downforce to be fast. You can't be half in driving that car. You have to be all in, late on the brakes, early on the gas, fast to the turns. That car, when it's compressed to the ground, it's its fastest when it's lowest to the ground, and you really got it on the edge.
The last car, the Formula Atlantic car, that's the one that goes faster, right? Are those races usually faster?
So it's funny, people get fast mixed up a lot. Sometimes everyone just wants to know the mile per hour. If you want to know true mile per hour, yeah, the Trans Am car blows it out of the water. It's a 200 plus mile an hour car. But in terms of like a lap time around the track, for the most part, a Formula Atlantic is actually faster because of how quick it is in the turns, how deep you're on the brakes. It's a really quick, nimble car, and it's pushing so much downforce. It's really an amazing car to drive.
Again, I could be completely wrong. Is the Trans Am more of the races that are around like a more like oval track, and then the Formula Atlantic is more of street type racing? Is that kind of accurate or no?
I don't run any oval track, believe it or not. Like when we go to Daytona, we run like Daytona's, we're on the banking, we're going around. It's wicked fast. But we actually run the infield at Daytona. Like if you're oval racing, like truly in a circle the whole time, 500 laps, you're either running NASCAR or you're running IndyCar, and IndyCar runs select races on ovals, right? Both these cars, the Trans Am car and Formula Atlantic I drive, we're running road course tracks. Couple examples, Road Atlanta, very classic road racing track there. Watkins Glen, VIR, Sebring. Those are all road course tracks.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
How do you kind of like get adjusted to those speeds when driving? 'Cause that's just like a lot of power hold up into like one vehicle.
Yeah, there's definitely an adjustment period, especially driving one car versus the other. I was actually just talking to my buddy as well as my dad, and we were talking about that adjustment. How hard is it to jump in one car to the other? And I literally had that opportunity at Road America 3 weeks ago, and we were like, okay, we're gonna do some testing in this car while we're running the Trans Am car at the same event. So I was in the Trans Am car, and I literally hopped out of one car, took my belts off, ran down grid, and hopped in the other car and went out. And let me tell you, that is more of a challenge than you think, because you're going down the front straightaway in one car, braking at, say, the 500 marker, and then you hop in the other one and you're braking at the 200 marker. It's just like you totally got to change your mindset. I wouldn't say it's necessarily difficult when I'm not driving, just hop back into it. I just kind of get myself into a rhythm and work my way up to speed again. But when it's like jumping from one car to the other, I'd say even week to week, like one weekend in one weekend in the other, that's difficult. It's definitely like change your mindset, really got to focus. Otherwise, you don't want to make a mistake, something like that. That'd be a big problem.
And how does traveling with the car, how does traveling from like one state to another cross country, and what all goes into competing? What does your like preparation look like?
For sure. Yeah. This is actually a good one. So when I first started, me and my dad did most of it. We were a father-son team. We maintained the car at our shop. We loaded it. We took it to the track. We were the crew. We brought it home. We did everything. So we were truck and trailering that car everywhere, especially in the beginning when we started racing Trans Am in the beginning. And a couple of years down the road, we switched from TA2 Trans Am class to the TA Trans Am class, which I'm in now. And we decided to go with Ave Motorsports, who then takes care of our car, and they're out of North Carolina. So basically how it works now is I'm in Seattle, wherever the race is going to be. I fly to the track. I get there. The crew has already, with a semi-truck and their team, they've brought it to the track. They show up, semi-truck hauler, race car, unload it, get everything ready. So for me, it definitely takes a little bit of that stress and kind of that crunch. You always feel like you're on like a time limit everywhere, trying to get yourself ready, get to the track in time. Back then it was after school. I mean, we didn't have the luxury of taking a whole day to travel. We'd use the nighttime to travel. So by the next morning, we were there and ready to go.
Must be stressful at moments in time.
It's definitely a little stressful, but yeah, we're very fortunate now. We have two really good teams we work with, Ave Motorsports and Cahill, who's out of Abbottstown, PA. So they do a great job getting the car to the track.
That must be a lot nicer now, having the team behind you.
It is. Yeah, a lot of good guys.
So yeah, now kind of jumping into when you first started racing and found out that you love race cars. How were you first introduced to racing?
Well, I have a picture in my room, and I'm about, I'm sitting down, so about yay tall, maybe 3 feet tall, and I'm standing next to my dad's race car, and I'm about as tall as his tire. So that's when I was at the track, as early as I can remember, and I never thought much of doing it, believe it or not, early on. I always thought, oh, this is so cool, my dad's a race car driver. But I was playing hockey my whole life till then, so I never thought too much about it. And then at 15, my dad was like, you should go get your license and just race for fun. Enjoy what I've been doing. And I did. In the first couple of years, I was kind of half in, half out. I realized, I'm decent at this, but it's something that takes practice. And I was still playing hockey. And then when I was about 18, we were like, okay, let's go all in on this. And we decided to acquire a TA2 Trans Am car. The rest is history.
So when you got into college is when you started to take it seriously?
For sure, yeah. Mindset, everything changes a little bit when you go to college, right? Not just your personality and everything else that's going on, but the focus definitely changed. It was like, whoa, I really want to do this and I need to start now.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. If you don't mind diving into the story, how did your dad get into it, if you know?
Yeah, for sure. He got into it by himself, pretty independently. He wanted to race. When he was growing up, he was really big into drag racing. Later on in his life, he wanted to get into road racing. And when he did, he ended up buying his first car, which I've driven before. It's called a Baby Grand. It's a mini stock car. It's think of a stock car like NASCAR and shrink it down. That's what they are. And they're powered by a 4-cylinder motorcycle engine. And he started with that. And then a couple years down the road, he made the biggest jump you could ever make and went from that car to a full-on Trans Am 800 horsepower car. And he raced that for many years since he's dialed it back a little bit since I've come on. So
makes sense. We all take a lot after our dads for sure.
Oh, so, indeed.
That's how I was with golf. Makes sense with racing.
I got to hear some golf stories sometimes. I would love to hear Hess, man.
So, again, kind of relating to that story, do you remember the first time you were behind the wheel of a legit race car?
I do remember the first time. It was at a driving school, and I know you're about to say, how was that?
Yeah.
It was fun. It was really fun. But it's not like what everyone thinks, you're going to get out there and get on the Autobahn and just whap the gas pedal and feel like this is the greatest thing ever, right? There was maybe the first lap was oh shit, this is what the hell is happening? I'm scared.
Right.
But then there was an immediate intensity that follows with it every time after that we went racing. And the intensity only grows as you go up the tiers of racing, especially into professional racing. The anxiety, personally, I've always been someone that gets jacked up before a game or whatever it may be. So before racing, I just realized never once was it oh my God, we're flying. It's more okay, focus harder, intensify.
Yeah, that's kind of why I was asking, what's the story about how you got it? Because again, racing isn't something that you can just be oh, I'm going to go do that today. You know what I mean? There kind of has to be some preparation behind it. So, the whole driving school thing, that all makes sense. You said you had to get your license through that, right? How long was that kind of process?
Believe it or not, I think this would surprise people. It doesn't take much. It takes 3 days at a driving school, depending which school you go to. You can be in for 3 days and by the end of it, walk out with a novice. And then they'll make you do some novice races a couple weekends a year. And by then you can walk away. As long as you don't get in a big accident or you don't go wrecking someone or something stupid, you can walk away with a full competition license. That's what I mean. That's kind of the beauty of club racing. You can be out there and you can be a purely a beginner, but a qualified beginner, or you can be an ex-professional driver who's just racing at the club level again because he wants to dial it back for whatever reason, budget or intensity, or he just wants to have fun.
Yeah, no, that all makes sense. Was there a particular moment or a race or something when you were younger where you're okay, I want to be a professional racer? Was there a moment where you knew you wanted to make that work?
It's a good question. I don't remember a specific moment I wanted to go pro racing. We happened to acquire a car at the time that was a pro car. It was a no-brainer to run it in the Trans Am series as a professional car in a professional series. It wasn't after I completed probably 2 or 3 of those races my first season running in Trans Am. I was oh, oh, okay, like, let's do this. Let's go all in type deal, right? And our first year, we couldn't make every race, obviously, but we made 5 out of 6 of the first races, I believe. And we ran tracks from Portland, Oregon to Monterey, California to Austin, Texas at Circuit of the Americas. I couldn't tell you a specific race that did it for me, but I can definitely tell you the year. It was my first year. I was 18 years old. I believe it was 2019. That was the year I was like, okay. And then just from there, it just exploded.
From that year, 2019 and earlier, can you kind of pinpoint a particular memory that like stands out to you, or like a favorite?
Favorite memory prior to that. So you mean like when I was starting like club racing kind of?
Or very early professional racing or earlier?
I could give you one of each. I think something earlier, prior pro racing. This isn't a great memory, but it's a core memory for sure. I went and drove a track in California called Sonoma Raceway. And I went down there. It was probably the biggest field of cars I've ever been in. And I was still pretty young. I was pretty naive, new to racing still. And I went into a turn with 30 cars, and I never thought about like, oh, you got to worry about what everyone else is doing out there. Like, there's idiots out here with you too. You just don't know it. And I went through a turn and I got both fenders clipped, and they went right over the hood, and like my fenders collapsed on the car. And I was kind of like, what the hell just happened? And then of course you get the repair bill later in that weekend, and it's just like, oh, it just makes you just want to cringe. Right? That's definitely a core memory. Not a good one, but that's a core one. I would say my best memory in the beginning of my pro racing career was definitely 2020 Trans Am Sonoma Raceway. Got my first professional win there, and that was like best feeling in the world, especially coming out of like, you're kind of in the midst of COVID, kind of things are kind of coming back to normal that season because of COVID and whatnot. We didn't have the opportunity to run all the races, but we did get down to that one and we did win it. That was a really big moment for us, not just me, our whole team. That was a good breakthrough for us.
Right. No, that was a game changer, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Jumping to more recent years, what has changed the most since you first started, whether it's like team-wise, strategy-wise, competition? What kind of changed the most since you started?
Besides all the outside factors of your team and your car and all the kind of obvious things you see, I'd say the biggest thing that changed for me was confidence. Believe it or not, there's a lot of confidence you carry as a driver. And if you're not carrying a lot, it's really, I mean, you know, it's same as golf, Logan, you know, same deal. If you don't have confidence, you know, you might not stick that ball right next to the pin. It's kind of that same idea in racing. I just realized confidence really changed for me. And instead of being the guy, you were like, okay, I'm being chased. Like, I'm going to get chased this lap. Oh, I hope he doesn't pass me. Now it's more that, yeah, I'm going to get by him and I'm just going to drive away. Right? That's the mentality we got now, especially our team. As a driver too, it helps when your team is like that as well and they're pushing you to get better. That's probably the biggest change I've noticed, just how you carry yourself going into that race. And I don't mean from an egotistical way. I just mean your mindset, like you're going into it. And when you're talking to your crew, you guys are talking about, yeah, we're going to win. We're just going to figure it out.
No, for sure. You know, even from what you said about your team and everything changing, like I'm sure from like your early years when you said it was just you and your dad to now racing on all these big tracks with all these, you know, really good racers with all these people behind you. I'm sure you're like, wow, this is legit now. Like, I'm a big kid around here now. Yeah.
Well, I don't know about big kid, but I mean, for sure, it's definitely different, especially when it was me and my dad, you know, humping our butts every weekend. I mean, that was a lot of hard work, right? And now you feel very fortunate to be able to show up, and your main focus is like, hey, I'm going to drive. I'm not going to worry about packing up the rig tomorrow after the race, right? I'm not going to worry about getting those tires down to the tire guys to get my tires swapped and then mounted and balanced. You can take away all things like that and just focus.
Right, for sure.
With having like the crew in your ear and everything during the race, you kind of said the most memorable memory you had racing. What's kind of like your favorite memory when you have while driving and kind of between you and the crew listening in? Do you have like a favorite moment or a highlighted moment with driving and your crew?
I can give you two off the top of my head, actually. One's funnier because you guys are streaming this, so I won't use exact language that was used, but my videographer, Logan, actually, he has somehow managed to acquire a radio, and I didn't know it. And I might have shit-talked him a little bit, and little did I know he was listening on the other line, and I got an earful back. That was probably one of my most memorable moments, sitting in the car and going, of course, the one time, right? Yeah, so you guys should interview Logan sometime for that one. Anyways, I think my most memorable, like in a more professional manner, radio was, I won a race this year, actually, at Pittsburgh, believe it or not. Up until this point, that was like one of the hardest spot races I had this year. And it was just kind of like, I got told on the radio, you know, great job, good finish, whatever. The crew's telling you all the things you need to hear after a race, right? And I don't know why that race hit me really hard, because it really all came together. My crew chief was incredible on the radio. My driving coach was on the radio with me too. He told me everything I need to know until that last lap. And then last lap, everything goes quiet, right? Everything's on you now. There's nothing they can help with anymore. So I'd probably say, yeah, this year, actually, that was probably the best moment on the radio. And all I could say afterwards was thank you.
And then you got to go see Mac afterwards, make it even better.
Oh, dude, it was great seeing Mac, man. It was so good seeing that guy. But yeah.
That's funny. No, that's a cool story.
I feel like that bond between you and the crew is so strong too, between like the funny moments and the more like serious moments and everything. And
yeah, for sure.
What is the top destinations for you that you have competed in?
In the U.S., definitely Daytona International Speedway. We got to run the 24-hour Daytona race there last year, and running the banking at night is surreal. It's 5 a.m. and you hop in a car and you're so tired, but you hop in and you're ripping around a banking at 200 miles an hour. It can't beat that. Internationally, though, earlier this year, I actually went to Spain to compete in a shootout for I want to say their team was Germany based, or anyways, I went over there for a shootout competition, and kids like me all over the world get the opportunity to go there. You get selected, you go over and you race this LMP3. It's a prototype car, and I got to run a race in Spain, and it was really fun. I mean, it was very last minute too. Got noticed of the shootout 5 days before it started, and I booked tickets, airline, flights, everything. And I told my mom and dad I'm going. And then I asked my girlfriend, do you want to go? I could use a companion. And we booked flights literally the same day. And we were in Barcelona going to a racetrack within like 3 days.
No, that's sweet. Have there been any other times you've been out of the country for racing, or just that one?
Not for racing. That was the first time, and it was awesome. It was really cool to run in Europe with a European team, running a track, especially this one was called Motorland Aragon. Great track, great facility, incredible car to run there. It was just very fortunate to be able to go over there. But I have not been anywhere else yet, but I would love to go back over there because they got some really great racetracks.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, it sounds like you've also been literally all over the country in the
US.
Yeah,
we've been to just about every track there is in the US.
Any favorites other than Daytona?
Road America it's probably the biggest, most pristine track in Wisconsin. I love that track. I've had some bad luck there, but this year I probably had my my hardest fought battle there, and I finished third. I didn't even win, but it felt like a win afterwards because it was the hardest battle I've ever had to stay on the podium. So Road America is pretty awesome. If you're anything into cars or racing, you probably definitely want to go there.
I'm not even into racing, and I've heard of it. If that means
exactly. There you go.
It must be pretty sweet.
Yeah, it is.
That all sounds great, though. Now, kind of jumping into the future, what are your plans post graduation? When it comes to either work or professional racing, what do you kind of have planned?
Yeah, so just about to finish up my master's program here at DU. The goal is to get into I'm hoping luxury custom home building. I'm currently an intern with Toll Brothers, actually, as an assistant CM. So from more of a business standpoint, that would be my goal. At the same time, though, I'm not trying to kick racing to the curb. I'm trying to kind of go side by side with this, work and racing as long as I can. I was very fortunate enough this year to run a full season. So next year, my goal would definitely be move on and hopefully go to, it's called Formula Regional. It's USA's version of Formula 3, and keep climbing that open wheel ladder with the hopes of, the goal would be IndyCar. So
right, gotcha. So you are definitely hoping to pursue further levels of professional driving, for sure.
Yeah, that's the goal. I just want to keep climbing the ladder, and like I said, the next step up is Formula 3 in the United States, and if it takes me internationally after that or wherever it may be, I'm more than willing to follow and chase that dream down.
No, that's awesome, especially from a marketing standpoint. I think this more correlates to like your marketing degree, but how do you kind of use your education, what you've been taught, in your business? Like, I know you have quite the social media. You have a real nice website going. I was checking it out yesterday. Real professional. How do you kind of connect the two, and how do you use what you've learned, for your business?
First of all, yeah, I'm glad I'm getting some traction from someone. So that's good to see you guys have been on there. It's been a learning curve with marketing and motorsports. It's very difficult. Motorsports is heavily driven by money now. I wish it was more driven by talent. And I do believe people still value talent. Don't get me wrong. But it's you need to bring funding with you where you go now. The biggest thing I've learned is your social media marketing is huge, right? What you provide to them on social media might only seem like a picture or a video or a tag, but that goes a long ways with your connection with them. They would rather communicate with you through social media, in my opinion, than through like an email or a phone call. So I would say, the biggest thing I learned, especially taking from a bachelor's in marketing at RMU, is utilize social media platforms. Don't give up on any leads you think there may be, because chances are you're just knocking at the door with 10 more doors behind that one to actually get to the person you want. And then market yourself the best you possibly can in every way you can. Even if you think, I'm pushing the envelope on reality and just juicing myself up here, keep it real, but also realize chances are the people you're targeting to reach, they don't know squat about motorsports. You want to bring that into that realm in the most attractive way possible.
It sounds like you're really, using your network really well too. I know with Logan, I know his kind of expertise. He travels with you a good bit, right?
Yeah, most every race.
Awesome that you have people like him, that you can not take advantage of, but that you can use.
Oh, I hope he watches that part.
I mean, that's what me and Caleb are trying to do. I mean, we're like you're talking about with marketing. I mean, all we do is based around social media. So we're figuring all that stuff out ourselves and trying to best figure out how to grow. Like you said, you are. So we relate. We really do. Diving in, again, relating to your future. I think I saw from something you posted recently that you have a championship coming up. So I just kind of wanted to hear more about this championship. What's kind of on the line? Like, what are the implications of this championship and just other upcoming races and destinations you have planned?
So I'm currently in the hunt for the Formula Atlantic Championship. We're currently leading in the standings with points. New Jersey was a kind of a pinnacle. We had to rack some really good points, and we did. We got first and second place finish, as well as some points for qualifying on pole. So we're currently leading going into the final round, which is in roughly 2 weeks at Summit Point Raceway in West Virginia. That's where the finale is going to be held. And as of now, we're in the lead. So I'm not going to jump to any conclusions, but it's looking good right now. We did our work throughout the season. So we've racked up a decent amount of points and a good lead right now to stay in the hunt for it and be in first right now in the championship. So that's for Formula Atlantic. For the Trans Am car this year, we chose to do the runoffs route, which is SCCA Club Racing every year at the end of the year has a thing called the National Runoffs. It's like the prestige of SCCA, right? Everyone wants to go to this race. It's like you go there, you qualify. This is like a big deal. You win that, you're a national champ. So we're working towards that this year. We're qualified. We're ready to go. We got to get some more testing in before we go, but we'll be definitely in the hunt there to get on that top step to be a national champion in GT1 as well.
Right. No, awesome. You said this championship. You said is it next week? Or is it coming up soon?
Yeah, I could be wrong. August, I believe it's August 15th-ish, 16th, 17th, 18th, somewhere in there. That's 2 weeks away. Yeah, it's real soon.
Have our fingers crossed. We'll be watching. Yeah,
I appreciate that.
So yeah, that answers that question. And then this is going to be kind of a tough one, maybe on the spot. But, as you said, you're going to try to pursue racing into the future as well, as long as having like a working career as well. How would you kind of define what success will look like in the future? Like, what's the ultimate goal with racing?
For me, the ultimate goal of racing would be to reach IndyCar. And to get there, it's really tough because it gets extremely competitive and your funding needs to be much larger than it is at this level of pro racing. Where personally, as a driver, my goal would be to make it to the top step of open wheel racing, which would be IndyCar. And before that is Indy Next, or recently known as Indy Lights. That is definitely my goal. That's something I keep in the back of my mind all the time. That would be success to me, but I would also see success something along the lines of, okay, what if that doesn't work out, or for some reasons, whatever they may, you gotta divert your attention. You got to focus on work for a bit. You got to dial back the racing. Success in my eyes, and I've talked about this before with close people in racing, success for me would look like starting my own race team one day. That would be awesome. Accomplishing that would mean a lot to me because I know how hard we've worked to start our race team, what it's blossomed into. And there are a lot of things I'd want to do the same, but a lot of things I'd want to do better and improve it when I start my own team. And eventually I'd love to be an owner of a team and have some cars and get some young drivers coming in, and hopefully they'll be doing it younger than I am, because kids now are racing before I even had an interest in it, right? And kids are racing at 13, 14 and go-karting when they can stand up and walk.
That all sounds great.
Last question. What are your social media? Do you want to plug any social media? Anything plug that's outside of social media too as well?
Social media wise, yeah, for sure. Anyone watching or want to follow along, the best way to follow me along is probably Instagram. I try to give daily updates on race weekends and stay up to date even throughout the weekends I'm not racing. Instagram handles at Matthew Butson 24. Ooh, that's wrong. Instagram handle is actually at Matthew.Butson24. I do a decent bit of posting and I make sure we have stories going on and keeping you up to date between qualifying and race sessions. I'm semi-active on YouTube, not as much as I should be. We have some really good content on YouTube. It's our YouTube handle is just at Butson Racing. Logan Kinsey, our videographer, does great work. There's some really cool montages there. There's some onboards. If you want to sit down and watch 5 to 10 minutes of some really good content and actually grasp what happens in a race weekend from a glorified standpoint, that's a really good way to do it. Mainly YouTube and Instagram I'm active on, and Facebook as well.
So we'll track it all down and we'll include it in descriptions and everything for sure. And then also your website, I said your website's pretty badass. So.
Thanks, man. I've been working on it.
I know if you won't plug it, I will.
I appreciate it. Yeah. I also actually, I try to update there as much as I can. Just swamped right now. We were in the busiest part of the race season and not a lot of stuff got updated when it should have.
Understandable for sure. So yeah, we'll wrap it up there.
Cool.